NFL Handicapping and Odds 2016. We're going to take a look at the odds to win each one of the divisions in the NFL. We'll start out with the AFC East, that is. New England Patriots, obviously, in their highly familiar role of being the overwhelming favorites at minus 185, and it's, fairly close to a toss-up after that. The Buffalo Bills slightly edge out the New York Jets as the number 2 favorite, the Bills plus 530. The Miami Dolphins, perennial disappointments. I guess they can't really be a disappointment this year since they are considered to be the longest shot in the AFC East, that they are plus 855. And remember, Joe Duffy's picks will have the winning selections all NFL season long at offshoreinsiders.com. Now let's go to the AFC North, where it's pretty close. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals, two overwhelming favorites. They're easily the two favorites, I should say. Pittsburgh at 145, Cincinnati at plus 195, though the Baltimore Ravens still a pretty good contender, plus 290. And the shipwreck known as the Cleveland Browns, quite the long shot indeed, at plus 3150. And Stevie Vincent, especially when it comes to forensic handicapping, the best trends and angles handicapper in the business at offshoreinsiders.com. Now to win the AFC South, arguably one of the more interesting races, Indianapolis Colts. Will Andrew Luck return to form this year? They are the favorites. The Colts are at plus 135, although the Houston Texans, have they finally gotten themselves a quarterback, at plus 225. Look, the Jacksonville Jaguars no longer the perennial long shot. So used to seeing the Jaguars as a long shot, but they're given pretty good possibility at plus 350, and nobody thinks that Marcus Mariota, or apparently the oddsmakers don't think that Mariota is able to turn the Titans around. They fairly much long shots. And by the way, these are based on $100 bets. I know a lot of you, maybe you're more used to seeing like 3-1 or 10-1. This is based on $100 per bet. So if you bet $100 on the Houston Texans, you'll win $225. If they win the division, in the Indianapolis Colts, you would win $135. So the Titans are almost at 12-1 is what it converts to. Now to the AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs are actually the favorites. The defending Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos, not given much respect, minus Peyton Manning, although a lot of people say they won it despite Peyton Manning. But despite being the Super Bowl champions, the Denver Broncos are not the favorites. Kansas City is. And Oakland, up-and-coming Oakland, look at that. They're only plus 300, or the equivalent of 3-1 to win it. And the San Diego Chargers, we talk about perennial disappointments, obviously, with the erratic and overrated Phillip Rivers. San Diego Chargers no longer among the favorites. They are the longest shot, although at about 7-1, that is not exactly a big long shot to win the division. Now let's go to the AFC. Oddsmakers are saying Tony Romo will be not only healthy, but apparently back to form. They're the favorites at plus 180, followed by the New York Giants and the Washington Redskins. Just after that, one of the tightest races around, to say the least, and who will be the Philadelphia Eagles starting quarterback? There's a good possibility the Eagles could have some value there. Philadelphia at plus 425. But again, the NFC East, as it so often is, really just will come down to injuries. Not to say that every division won't come down to injuries, but the NFC East, more than any other division, it's usually so close. As far as the NFC North, the Green Bay Packers, very prohibitive favorites at minus 145, followed by the Minnesota Vikings, and then two long shots, the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears, two teams with erratic quarterbacks, but we'll talk about it as it gets closer to the regular season. But those teams could be undervalued because, remember, they have those predictably unpredictable quarterbacks, guys that when you least expect it, get out all the cliches, but they're actually true, that when the Bears and the Lions are favorites, or usually go against them, when they're big underdogs, which they will be a couple times this year, they could be good teams to bet on. So that's going to be an interesting story that develops. To the NFC South, the Carolina Panthers, the defending conference champions and the team that was actually favored to win the Super Bowl, although Joe Duffy's picks as always did have the, well, not as always, but as they usually do, had the winner on the Denver Broncos, but Carolina at minus 180, pretty big favorites. Meanwhile, Atlanta edges out Tampa Bay as the number 2 favorite, but the Atlanta Falcons were as streaky as any team in the NFL last year. And can Matt Ryan, can he have a bounce back year? But again, these odds are pretty tight. The New Orleans Saints in an unfamiliar spot is actually being the long shot, although again at plus 680, not what you would call a major long shot to win the division, but they are still, by implication, predicted to finish in 4th place. So, the odds are not actual predictions, but it is implied. Anyway, to the NFC West, look at that. The San Francisco 49ers, how the mighty have fallen. That is the equivalent of almost 23 to 1. Seattle Seahawks, arguably the best team on both sides of the ball. They the heavy favorites to win the division at minus 110. Arizona started to show some potential last year, although they came up short in the playoffs, but Arizona at plus 170. The LA Rams, yes, the Los Angeles Rams at plus 840, obviously have developed themselves one heck of a running game. And the San Francisco 49ers, no team in all of sports perhaps has fallen more than they have, as we said, the big long shots. And remember, all season long, starting out in the preseason, the place to go for the best picks, offshoreinsiders.com, www.offshoreinsiders.com.